Hey guys, it's Harrison, the outdoor resident. So I just got back from the farm. I did a little bush hogging and it wasn't really too much y'all could see, but that's not really what I'm going to do with this video. This video is the first video of 3. And in this video series, what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain the process of becoming a physician. I was going to do this all in one video, but there's so much I wanted to say about each step that I'm just going to spread it out. And so you won't be sitting here watching a 30-minute video of just me talking. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the 3 big steps. 3 big steps. Number 1, go to undergrad. Get a college degree, a bachelor's degree. Number 2, go to medical school. And number 3, go to residency. And I'm going to have a video about each one of these steps. So step 1 is undergrad. So let's get started. Okay guys, so I'm going to break this down into a couple parts. The first part is we're going to go to undergrad, and oh my god, undergrad, I had so much fun. It was a blast. I learned a lot. I met a lot of cool people. I had a ton of fun. It was one of the best times of my life. It's hard to believe that next month it's been 5 years since I graduated. Wow, that's just hard to believe. But anyway, when you go to medical school, you have to have a bachelor's degree. And I do get asked a lot by a lot of different people, like, hey, what should I major in? I'm interested in medicine. And I tell them, look, it doesn't matter. If you're interested in English, go learn English. If you want to learn forestry or whatever, go major in forestry. And that's my biggest piece of advice is you're at the time in life where you can learn whatever you want. And don't just limit yourself with microbiology or biochemistry or all that stuff. All that stuff is good, but on the first day of medical school, it doesn't matter. You're all on the level playing field, no matter what clinical experience you've had, no matter what major you had in undergrad. It doesn't matter. So choose whatever you want to major in and be happy with it and have fun with that. Alright, the next part in undergrad is you have to have some prereqs. Unfortunately, unlike law school, there are some prereqs you have to take for medical school. And I'm going to go through each one and kind of explain how they're clinically relevant and why you have to take them. So, number 1 that I always think of is general chemistry. And general chemistry, I mean, that was 9 years ago when I took it, but you learn, the basics of molecules and atoms and all that stuff, and you learn chemical reactions and all that stuff. How it's clinically relevant is one of the things we check in the hospital every day is called a chemistry panel. Chem 7, Chem 14, whatever. But what we do is we monitor the like sodium, potassium, the elements, that's what I'm looking for. We monitor the elements that are in your blood, and we understand the pathology behind what's going on. And in chemistry you learn, sodium as an ion has a +1 charge, chloride has a -1 charge. You kind of learn the basics of that, and you learn, it gets to become second nature where you don't really think about it. And that's one of the great things about undergrad is, oh yeah, you learned it, but you don't think that you use it in medical school, but you honestly do. Alright, so that's chemistry. One of my clinically relevant thing is the chemistry panel that we always check. The next one, biology. I mean, that goes without saying. That's the study of life, and you're going to be studying biology the rest of the time you're in medical school. Your medical career or whatever. There you learn about, how the body works, how cells work. You learn mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Everyone can tell you that. But one of the ways biology is relevant, I mean, it's what I study almost every day, so it's clinically relevant. You learn the difference between bacteria, fungi, eukaryotic cells, plant cells. You learn all the difference in that. And honestly, that does make a difference, because when you're going through thinking about, let's say someone has an infection, and they have a bacteria. You're like, oh, well, what kind of bacteria is this? And in biology, you learned, oh, they have this kind of cell wall, and you can give this antibiotic, and it will attack that cell wall and break it down. So that's kind of the very basics of biology, and that's one of the things. Chemistry, organic chemistry. Ooh. Talk about something I have never, ever, ever, ever used on clinical medicine. Ever. I will say, I think the reason that a lot of people want, or a lot of medical schools want you to take organic chemistry, or you have to take it, is it changes the way you think. It helps you think in 3D. When you're looking at a chest x-ray or a CT scan, what I learned is, from looking at flat molecules on a piece of paper to, you have to think about them in 3D. And when you're looking at a chest x-ray or CT scan, it's flat on a screen. You have to think 3D, and you can't just think, oh, it's one dimension. You have to think three-dimensionally. So that was one thing that organic chemistry taught me that, I'm learning, that I use in clinical practice. The next one, physics. Ooh, I did not like physics at all. I don't know if it was a class I took or whatever, but I didn't like it. And it's actually weird because my mother's stepfather, he loved physics. I mean, he got a PhD in physics, and I absolutely hated it. But it's very useful. We use electricity a lot in medicine. How the echocardiogram works. Not the echocardiogram. Well, that, because it uses sound, and you learn sound in physics. But electricity, the electrocardiogram. Did I say electro or echo? Whatever. The electrocardiogram is where they put all the leads on your heart, and you see how your heart's conducting electricity. That was one of the things that you learned in physics. You learn, it goes from positive to negative or whatever, and you learn that flow in physics. Also in physics, you learn about fluids and the properties of fluids, not necessarily like normal saline versus lactated ringers or whatever. You learn how fluid flows, how to increase the rate, what happens with increased pressure. You learn all that stuff. You learn torque, if you're in surgery, or if you're in orthopedics, you learn how, there's different moments of torque on different parts of the body, and where you put a screw, where you put a stitch, all that matters from physics. And now I look back on it, I actually like physics. I just hated it at the time I took it. And so we've gone through all of them, and then there's one more left. There's biochemistry. And biochemistry, you learn this pathway right here. Yes, that is a very real diagram. That shows the metabolism of all of the proteins, fats, nucleic acids, carbs. Shows all the metabolism, that how it's all interrelated, what turns what on and all this stuff. And you had to learn that in undergrad. And actually that is clinically relevant because there's different ways that, the Krebs cycles, if the Krebs cycle is not working, then you go into fatty acid breakdown. And you see that a lot in what's called diabetic ketoacidosis, where you produce ketone bodies because your body can't use glucose. And so, that is clinically relevant. I didn't learn that in undergrad. I learned it in medical school. But, the difference between medical school and undergrad is the content in undergrad is a lot harder. It goes a lot more in depth. However, in medical school, yeah, you learn all that, but you don't go in as much depth as you did in undergrad. However, you do it a lot faster. We learned that whole big pathway in a month. And in undergrad, it took us, 4 months. And so, you do it a lot quicker, and you have other stuff to do. You have to take anatomy tests and all this other stuff while you're trying to keep all this together, and then, make it, click in your head, and then, tie it to pathology and all this stuff. And that got really difficult. But that was pretty much the 5 or the 9 classes that you have to take, and how they're clinically relevant. And next thing we're going to go to in undergrad is the MCAT. So stick around. Okay, the MCAT, the Medical College Admissions Test. What that is it's a test on all the stuff I just talked about, physics, chemistry, organic chemistry, biochemistry, all that stuff into one test, and it also has logical reasoning in that test too. And then once you take that test, you get a score, you apply to program or schools, and they say, oh, you got good scores, good GPA, come interview. You interview, and then you get into medical school, you get an acceptance letter, all that great fun stuff. I mean, it's hard for me to believe that it's been 4 years since I had to go through that. But honestly, undergrad was such a fun time. I learned a lot, and I just I wish I could go back, but I wish I don't, because I've learned so much, and I'm doing a lot of cool things now. So that's pretty much this video on undergrad. Advice for those guys going for trying to get into medical school. Work your ass off. All A's never hurt anybody. If you can, all A's, some B's, and try to do your best, because it'll make it a lot easier to get into medical school than if you make A's, B's, and C's like I did. But it doesn't matter. Once you get into medical school, you can forget all that. You can forget all of it, because they're going to reteach you everything you ever knew, and everyone's going to be on a level playing field. But I hope y'all stay tuned for my next video on medical school. It's probably going to be a lot longer than this one, because it's what I'm in right now, and I can talk about a lot of intricacies of what everything does, why you do it, and how you do it. But one thing I want to say, I'm not going to tell anyone how to get into medical school. There are plenty of videos and forums and all kinds of crap, how to get into medical school. I'm just giving you the basics of why you're doing this, and because a lot of the things you're studying in undergrad is like, why the hell do I ever have to know this? And I'm going to try to bring that into all my other videos, and kind of clinically relate stuff that I do in the woods to stuff I do in the clinic or in the hospital or whatever. So that's what I'm going to try to do. And I also always be careful what you read on the internet. Between Reddit and the Student Doctor Network, there's a lot of people who put stuff on there that is completely not true and just doesn't make sense. And if something doesn't make sense to you, it's probably not true. Just remember that, and be a great person, always have fun, and y'all have a good day. Thanks for watching.